All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again from Huawei Technologies, all the way from the UK, please welcome already on stage, Mr. Ian Valentine, taking over from Mr. Paul Michael Scanlon.
Thank you very much, and welcome again to the afternoon session here at Asia TV Forum. It's very exciting for me to be here to talk about this because my day job is doing product and business strategy for carriers around TV. But I'm standing in for Paul, as mentioned, and he's the Chief Transformation Officer now at Huawei. And we're going to take a more forward-looking view of the way carrier customers and media companies are going to be interacting in the future. If you were at the leaders' breakfast this morning, you would have heard an agency that's actually taking the principles from Flash Foresight, which is to look at unstoppable trends and predict those into the future, into new worlds. And we're going to do that a little bit today and hopefully change your mind about the relationship between media companies and carriers. The title of the talk is A Spanking New Paradigm, which neither Paul or myself are responsible for the title. We're having to come up with an interpretation of that, which I'll talk about a bit later on. So, first of all, thinking about trends and thinking about trends the way they move forward, there was a great king, a Viking king around 900 AD, 1000 AD, that was called King Canute. And he's misunderstood to be the person that thought he had superpowers that could stand on the beach and stop the tide coming in. Now, sometimes media companies and carriers are a bit like that. They think they can stop the big trends. But that's not actually what King Canute did. He actually recognized that there was higher powers, things working that were beyond his control. And he did this stunt, if it ever actually happened on the beach, to show that he wasn't actually sovereign, that there were higher principles, higher things than ruling Denmark and the United Kingdom. And I think that's really interesting because today we cannot stand in the way of technological progress. Technological progress is moving at an ever-increasing rate, and it's up to us to harness those technological progressions for good. And at the heart of all good things are consumers, real people, and entertainment is at the heart of what they do. So let's look a little bit about what's changing in the world, in the media industry, and change our minds a little bit about media and carrier customers. Because the world is indeed changing. Hands up here who's got an Amazon Alexa. I don't know if that's a big thing in Asia. It's transforming the smart home across America, Germany, and the UK right now. I have conversations with the Alexa units in my home about all sorts of things, and I learn all sorts of things. Alexa is an AI, and the voice is a natural interface. I no longer turn on the radio. I always ask Alexa to play a radio station. I can do that while I'm cooking. I can ask her to turn on the lights and turn up the temperature in the bedroom. Who here owns a Tesla car? Well, this Tesla car is a robot. It has AI built into the car, and its job is to move people around. People think of technological change as robots walking around doing the vacuum cleaning and looking like human beings. That's not actually true. This car is a robot. And robots and deep learning are today trying to be repurposed, to be unleashed, if you like, for the common good of mankind, which is one of the big challenges we face. Gene editing is now as easy as word processing. We can actually change the genetic code of cells as easily as we edit things in a word processor and automate the proteins that go about changing that DNA almost at will. And pretty soon, if you've been keeping an eye on Elon Musk, within 5 to 7 years, we'll have moon base alpha. So the technological progress we're facing today is amazing. We're at the fastest point of inflectional change in the history of humanity. With 7.5 billion people on this planet, who knows where we're going to go over the next few years? And just to put that into context, when I was born, there was 2.5 billion people. And when Jesus Christ was on the earth, there were only 250 million people on the earth. So mankind is really going places. But so's the media industry. We've heard from all the OTT providers here about Facebook, Netflix, YouTube, Vimeo, and all the other revolutions that are happening in OTT media recently, and we're all becoming more and more aware, as we heard from the social speaker this morning, that social media and OTT video is now mainstream. There is no stopping it. These are unstoppable trends. So what's happened to the telco customers? What's happened to the carriers? You know, they started off with this circuit-based business around connecting people on the phone, and they've moved into managing this sea of data. And 4G and fixed broadband and fiber are all about this sea of data. And many of our carrier customers have struggled on how to monetize, how to get more value out of that great sea of data. And the next revolution happening to them is that they are now changing to be centers again of an ecosystem, a bit like the voice ecosystem at the beginning, but this time an ecosystem of video. So I want to be able to show you exactly how that's happening. I'll touch the user experience, the business models, some of the technology development and challenges going forward to help you understand how media companies can be part of this ecosystem of video that carriers are now creating. There is a new paradigm of cooperation now between media companies and carriers, and perhaps we should wake up to that. So one interpretation that Paul and I had about the title is that we should give the industry a bit of a spanking and tell them some things that they should wake up to. Another interpretation is that something bright and shiny and new is coming, like your spanking new car. But leaving the interpretation of the title aside, let's think of a few things we're learning here at Huawei as we take our carriers through this transformation journey into becoming a center of a video ecosystem. First of all, the user experience. Who on their phone has a folder of apps that looks like this? Right? Probably everyone, right? If you're a TV operator, and I came from the TV industry, this is the worst TV experience in the world. I'm not talking about the content. I'm not talking about the quality of the video. I'm talking about the quality of the discovery experience, the quality of the interactive experience. If these apps are channels, then it takes me 30 seconds or so to switch channels. If I've got Amazon Prime and I've got Netflix, it takes me a long time, 10, 15 minutes, to figure out who's got the show or who's got the film I want to watch. In the user experience on mobile, there is an opportunity for a revolution around joining this experience up, and this is something that our carrier customers are doing. You see, at the moment, this plethora of apps is a direct relationship between content creation, distribution, and content delivery and consumption. Each app is its own silo, is its own island on this sea of data. But it didn't used to be like that. When we look back at the role of the TV operator sat between content creation, distribution, and the users, the devices, the customers, the home. And this role of the TV operator is still true today. In fact, there are great opportunities in mobile TV to join up the experience, especially around niche content and specialist and local content. And increasingly, our mobile carriers are joining up viewing into a TV-style user experience. We've seen fantastic mobile TV applications launched by carriers that are really changing the way consumers perceive their smartphones. Now, you might say, what advantage has the carrier got to someone that provides an app? I'll tell you one: data anxiety. When T-Mobile launched Binge On in the States, YouTube's viewing figures went up by 3 times. Their revenues went up. Did they complain that their resolution was getting squeezed down to SD? What T-Mobile did then, they offered unlimited viewing at a particular quality. We're seeing carriers all around the world following this model, where they're giving away unlimited access to video streaming partners in an OTT partnership with the carrier, forming immediately an ecosystem where the carrier is adding value by offering data anxiety-free streaming to entertainment on mobile. And then they're joining this up into a TV-style user experience. Let's look a little bit at the business model. Because one of the first business models that our fixed broadband particularly, but all mobile carriers as well, have to decide is, what's my role? What's my role in the video industry as I'm monetizing video in an ecosystem? And they have to choose. They can think, do I own the mall or do I own the shop? And there's much confusion in the industry between carriers and the apps like iFlix and Netflix. People almost see them as competitive. Like the carrier is going to run a pay TV service and license some content and try and compete with Netflix. Increasingly, we're not seeing that. The telco carriers that are the most enlightened telco carriers that we serve, like Deutsche Telekom, like many of the others, they're following an aggregation model, and they've decided they want to own the mall. They don't want to own the shop. And in a world where content owners are increasingly global, doesn't it make sense for the regional telcos and the carriers of this world to actually be pulling their eyeballs together into a unique experience and being the mall and not the shop? And not only that, but it's a much more exciting and explosive business. You see, if you own a shop, it's a classic linear business. You're buying content, you're selling it. You're buying wood and you're selling tables. You're buying metal, you're selling cars. There are many examples of linear businesses that only serve one customer segment. But when you become the marketplace, you get this marketplace effect, the reinforcement effect of two customer segments. Pulling together content providers and viewers into an ecosystem creates exponentially growing businesses. Like credit card businesses pull together shops and shoppers. Like newspapers pull together readers and advertisers. Or Google pulls together searches and sites. Or Uber and Airbnb pull together travelers and people that want to travel. Increasingly, our carrier customers are ditching this idea of becoming a copycat pay TV operator and moving towards the marketplace model. And why? Well, when you're an OTT video content provider, you've only got content revenues to rely on. Our carrier customers have many other revenue streams. They have access revenues, they have feature revenues around their product, and they have the indirect benefits of bundling this TV product with their telecommunications services. So they don't actually need to take the content revenues. They can partner with the people that already have licensing. And when we looked earlier on at the content panel, I was so pleased to see iFlix, Netflix, Hook, and all the others investing in original content. Because these OTT shops, these brands, are moving more and more into the role of the traditional studio, creating their own content and looking for distribution. And the carriers are the distributors, whether they're working as a sea of data or whether they're running their own portal. You know, the next thing we see in the industry is another lesson. It's about the person, not the premise. You know, the premise being the house. It used to be in the pay TV market, we would always say, win the set-top box, win HDMI port 1 of the television, and you've won the home. It's not like that anymore, and it's never going to be like that again. If you look at emerging markets, I've taken Africa as an example here because I do a lot of work there, but you could take Indonesia, you could take India, and look at these emerging markets. They are different to these Western markets. In the Western markets, we still need to win the individual rather than the household. But in these emerging markets, it's game over. I mean, if you look at Africa, for example, and you look at the population growth and the population in Africa, Africa is one of the most populous continents. If you take Asia, and with its 1 billion in India, 1 billion in China, you know, a huge amount in Indonesia out of it, it's the most populous continent with the highest growth rate of young people that are growing up into millennials that will be using online video, from everything to consulting their lawyers, their doctors, to being educated and to watching entertainment content. Now, when we do business models, content revenues from watching TV normally run, whether it's SVOD, TVOD, or AVOD, in the number of cents per hour of viewing. If you were to take this population and work out on just 3 cents per hour and 5 hours a month what that market is worth in terms of content revenue, you can see the potential for growth. You know, the entertainment industry is not going to stop growing. The video industry is not going to stop growing. It is already on an exponential curve as new sources of video and new sinks of video come into the ecosystem. And it's our job as Huawei to make this work for our carrier customers. It's not our carrier customers' job to originate the content, Just like voice, they're actually at the heart of the ecosystem. And they know a lot about individuals. They run mobile money. They have browsing history. They know as much about individuals as Google does about searches. They know location. There is so much value to be added by the carrier customers to personalized experiences like entertainment that you can hardly believe it. But not only that, our carrier customers are not only innovating around the business models, not only innovating around the UIs, not only knowing their customer in detail that you couldn't believe, but they're investing in new technology. Now, you've probably heard of 5G. Now, 5G, not many people fully understand yet, but it's just around the corner. We're all the way through the standardization process, and in a few years' time, it'll be commercial. What is it? Well, it's three big things. It's enhanced mobile broadband, it's ultra-reliable, low-latency communications, and it's massive, massive machine-to-machine communication. Now, this technology is being invested in by our customers, and right at the center of that sweet spot, you can see AR, VR, and other applications. Now, you don't get 10 gigabit per second speeds at 1 million devices per square kilometer. So some of these things are exclusive. But for you in the media industry to understand the capabilities of carriers that will be here just in 2 to 3 years, it will allow you to innovate around new services, new products, and new styles of entertainment. In fact, people ask me, do I think AR or VR will be bigger? Well, I think VR is always a bit like 3D. It's a niche thing that you watch maybe with the lights out one Saturday night just to get the full experience of gravity. But it's not what you watch every day, okay? 4K is an iteration of HD, and it's something that you will watch every day. AR is something that will be with you every day. AR revenues we project to be bigger than VR revenues, and I'll tell you why. It's mainstream. VR is always a niche experience. AR will be with you all the time. Pretty soon, I will have a lapel camera. And it won't be my photo stream that's uploaded. It'll be my video stream, my live stream that will be uploaded. And it'll be uploaded to a storage facility in a carrier of my choice close to the edge. And AI will look at my live stream. And that content is mine to generate my history, my diary, my audio feedback from AR about the people I meet, their names, their birthdays, when did I last meet them. All the intelligence, all the history, all the memories of my life can be available to me, fed back through AR. Cars can have their driving augmented by cloud computing near the edge. A huge amount of applications are coming in this area. But what 5G really does for our carriers is move them on from this sea of data that we had with 4G into being a true ecosystem enabler. Each one of these areas that you see in the center of the bullseye here is an opportunity for unique services. Imagine a broadcaster with a drone, and he's got a 4K camera on it, and it's part of a news crew. That 4K upload from that drone is the original. We don't want that lost. We want it archived. We want it stored. And then we maybe want it processed so the editors can see it straight away on their smartphone or even their watch. How is that going to happen? And how is that going to get charged? Well, I'll tell you something. It won't be charged in just the same way as my free Netflix streaming service, where I'm downgrading it to SD and it's not part of my data. It will be charged as a service. So these carriers are going to increasingly add value to almost every video application running over their network. And they'll do that with their infrastructure. Our carriers are investing in these key new enabling technologies now. They're investing in the data centers, the processing capability, the radio access networks, and everything else. You see, the mobile device will be the control point for your life and for entertainment. We engage with it more. The size of the mobile devices' screens are better than television. The network capacity is better than Wi-Fi. We're always on the move. We need video services that are very personalized. Everything, every hard trend is moving towards video on the mobile device. The smartphone is the control point for many TV applications today because the application on the smartphone is so much better than the one on the set-top box. But I hear you say, we can only watch 4K in the home. Yeah, maybe you need a 4K set-top box, so maybe that's important. And I hear you say, but isn't it expensive to watch video over mobile networks? Well, yes, but I just told you that that could get bundled with the mobile TV proposition as free data. And by the way, your mobile is the control point for the TV device, so maybe that mobile app is controlling the 4K stick plugged into your TV. The mobile device is your control point for life moving forward, and mobile in emerging markets on video on mobile devices is going to be the norm looking forward. And increasingly our carriers are following a mobile-first strategy for video, making sure they get this control point. But I want to talk to you a little bit more about the technology. This is a bit of a big statement. The internet doesn't work for video, but let me tell you what's behind that. You know, in the early noughties, 2003, 2004, when internet streaming was happening, it coincided with the availability of a high-efficiency codec called MPEG-4, which also enabled HD. But do you know something? It would not have worked, and consumers would not have been confident in internet streaming of video had not it been for third-party CDN companies like Akamai, Level 3, Limelight, and the others. This diagram is how Akamai like to show traffic on their network. They boast that 15 to 30% of the world's internet traffic runs on their CDN, and it's mostly video. You cannot put a web server in San Francisco and run YouTube and have it work. It doesn't work through just internet protocols. CDNs are part of the way internet video works. And I tell you what, that's not changing. If you look at how the network reacts to video, you see this first thing here where you have a lot of upfront processing and a lot of storage just to optimize the network in this first diagram here, right? This is how VOD works. But the next one is more how live works, where you have to process live streams, you don't really store them, and it really hammers your network, right? We're working on technology that balances processing, storage, and network resources for anyone. The reason we have to do this is because if you have a library of videos and you suddenly want to make it available on a new device, you have to do a lot of upfront processing. At the moment, the CDN does the network piece, and YouTube and the others do all the upfront processing on the assets. It's an exponentially difficult problem to support all these sources of video and all these syncs of video. As your library changes, you have to do a lot of upfront processing, even if no one watches it. And that's why the content delivery networks of our customers are becoming virtualized. When they become virtualized, we get into the world of just-in-time anything, just-in-time transcoding, just-in-time encryption. And when we do that, the amount of resources needed balances off with the user demand. Now, this is an amazing breakthrough for innovation for third-party media companies that have to get their video out to consumers on a lot of different devices. No longer will you need a complex pre-processing, formatting, and distribution model. You can just register your assets, your streams with your carrier and let the carrier do the heavy lifting. This is what I mean by carriers being at the heart of a video ecosystem. In this world where sources and syncs are increasingly diverse, we cannot have our resources going up exponentially for every one of you media publishers. So increasingly, our carrier customers are investing in what we call smart pipe for video, moving them out of this sea of data and moving them into the heart of an ecosystem for video distribution. I'd like to move towards the close of this presentation by showing you a video that Huawei have produced, which give you a glimpse into how this is looking in the future. I think it's a moving video, so I'll just run it and then we'll talk about it afterwards. It follows a child's journey.
Imagine what life will be like for someone born today. From the first moments, her life will be filmed. She'll grow up with cameras and handheld devices, which she'll learn to use faster than her parents. But that's just the beginning. She'll live in a house made of screens. The wall, the mirror, the dinner table, the kitchen appliances. Even her dolls will connect to the internet. When it's sunny, she'll play outside. When it rains, she'll play in immersive virtual environments. At school, projections will let her visit faraway places to take trips through space and time. As a teenager, she'll hang out in a cafe with friends from everywhere. She'll go shopping in virtual boutiques and digitally try on all the things Mum wouldn't approve of. She'll watch TV through the eyes of athletes and actors. She'll go to concerts in her living room. She'll instantly travel to amazing places and then go backpacking there. Eventually, she'll get a job and get her a chance to make a difference in the world. She may treat patients from miles away, explore the ocean in a remote submarine, or invent something with partners on every continent. She'll achieve more than was ever possible before, all while staying close to those who really matter. One day, she'll have a child of her own, and she'll share his first moments, not with a photo or a movie, but with 3D holograms and sensors that can convey touch. Today, we just call this technology video, but soon, it's going to be in everything we experience. The roads we've taken are all heading there, and we're building for it every day.
So we need to wake up. There are new formats, new applications, new innovation, and everything's going to be enabled by video. The complexities of delivering video over our fixed and broadband infrastructure need not be placed on the innovators, the application providers. Instead, we're at the beginning of a new dawn, a new partnership, where carriers, telcos around the world are partnering and cooperating with all the OTT applications that embed video. So Paul would like to call this a spanking new paradigm of partnerships between telco carriers and media. I'm Ian Valentine. Thank you very much. Now, as seems customary here, do we want to take questions? If not, we're pretty much on time. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Valentine.